Hello everyone, how is everybody doing today? I said to change my background today. I hope you guys like it. I'm just teasing. Anyways, so just counting down to 3 o'clock. Hi, Dr Adebule. You deserve an award for being the number one. Hi, Dr. Bashwash. We have Dr. Hi everyone. Come speak to us about his University of Boston interview experience. You're free to also speak about any other school that you interviewed at. I'm just going to start with, can you just give us a brief introduction about who you are, where you studied, where you got your DDS, your educational background, basically.
Okay, hello everyone. It's great, to be here with you. Thank you, Dr. Dami, for having me. It's really a pleasure. I wish, we had this during our time, but yeah, it's great someone thought about it because every bit of information is important in this journey you are about to embark on. So I am Dr Adebule, Unilag everything. I finished from College of Medicine in 2011. After which, I served at the Air Force. Then I worked at Smile 360. I spent a few years doing residency in oral and maxillofacial surgery. Yeah, a few years in oral and maxillofacial surgery. And then I decided to move to Canada, right? With jackpot, as you guys will say it, in Nigeria. So I moved to Canada a few years ago. And so I was like, oh, what can I do, right? The only thing I know how to do is probably drill teeth. So I decided to start the dental journey. Well, I started the Canadian one. I sent my transcript, and on their website, they said it takes about 6 weeks, and mine took almost 10 months. So I went 10 months, and I am not really a patient person. That's not a virtue I have. So, yes, a friend told me it was doing the US, taking the US route, and I was like, no, I don't think so. My family is here, and I would love to stay in Canada. But when life happened to me, I decided to, go the US route. So I had a couple of friends. We came together. They started theirs on time. They got into, Canadian schools, but that's a story for another day. So I am DMDAS. I'm 24 at BU. That's the Henry Goldman School of Dental Medicine. So that's about everything about me. So what else do you want, Tammy? Did I miss anything?
Touched on everything because you know how I was saying that I'll have some questions and you just like breeze through everything. So thank you for that. I guess the only thing I was just gonna ask is, I mean, I know you said that you started the Canada process as well, but because it was taking so long, you had to do the US. So my question to you is two questions. The first question is, so were you doing the USA and the Canada at the same time? And then what, apart from the fact that they were taking a long time in Canada, you guys, they take forever. Let me just add that in there. Apart from the fact that it was taking a long time for them to evaluate your transcript and approve you for the Canadian university pathway, was there any other reason that informed your decision to just focus on the US?
Well, I'm a very practical person, and put it that way. And I think in Canada we have just about 6 schools that do the international dentist program, or the international dentist pathway, compared to about, I think now, 54 schools in the States. So yeah, I was looking at it, 6 versus 54, it's easy math. So that was one of the reasons. And second reason being that in Canada, probably in a year, they take about 50, 60 people across the country. My school, Boston, takes 100 people, or they took 100 people this year. So just the school in the US takes double the amount of people in the whole of Canada. So my chances, greatly increased. Looking at the states. Also, what also? Yeah, I have a couple of friends in the states, right? And people who've gone through the program and they are doing very well. It wasn't something too difficult. That was, I think, the final reason I chose to go to the US after being disappointed, massively let down. Was heartbroken. Heartbroken by the Canadian process. Yeah.
Guys, the reason why I'm laughing so much is because I understand this frustration. Because he would call me and be like, "What happened?" Like, because I did my own Canadian verification many years before, and things were a bit okay then, but now it's just crazy. Like during COVID, even got worse. So if anybody's going to do the Canadian university, start early. Start early. So basically, so you did so is it like you did the Canada process, got disappointed, and then just focused in US, or you were doing US and Canada at the same time?
Oh yeah, so it's a funny story, right? For those who know the Canadian process, you write AFK in February and August, and the deadline for the February exam is November to pay.
Yeah.
Right? And before this time, I was really optimistic. I had enrolled at a prep school. I paid about I think 3,500 Canadian dollars, right? So non-refundable, by the way. So 3,500 Canadian dollars, and I waited until the last day. I couldn't. My evaluation was not ready. Then I was like, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" So, after thinking, I decided to talk to a couple of friends, and they told me to try the US. I
Okay.
sent so the Canadian evaluation was still ongoing, right? And I decided to start the US, and it took about, I think, 10 working days for them to do my evaluation.
Wow.
And I think I wrote my part one. Was it part one? No. It took like 10 working days, right? And it was ready before the Canadian was even ready. Canadian, I think, was ready after the AFK was completed, which was around March. Yeah, that's when so it was, together. I did it together, right? Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you very much for giving us those details. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the application process. So for the US school. So what was your profile like? Like what was your application profile like? Like in terms of like let's maybe like narrow it down to what was on your resume, like did you have community service, what was your TOEFL score, your IELTS score like, did you EC versus West, did you have any North American experience? Like, let's just go into what your application profile looks like.
Okay, yeah. So my application process was, very simple and basic. I wanted someone looking at it, at face value or glancing over it, to really, get attracted or get stuck on me, right? Because there are thousands of applications. You're not the only person trying to get into school. There are lots and lots of other people. So the first page, first of all, for all you guys, the way you do your CV is different in Nigeria. So you'll probably have to get someone that has applied or gone through the process so that you can kind of tailor your resume to what they accept here. So as I said earlier on, I was a resident in oral and maxillofacial surgery. Before then, Smile 360. So I asked a couple of things I did. Nobody's really interested in if you did if you did mandibulectomy or maxillectomy. They are not interested. You are going to school to learn. So you don't want to come as being someone that is unteachable, right? Write lots of highfalutin things. Oh yes, I did ORIF, I'm doing, I did like 1,000 surgical extractions. Nobody's interested in that. In fact, you might come across as being proud and unteachable. So Also, you have to keep that in mind. So anything you write in your resume should be something that shows that you are willing to learn, you are able to learn, and you are ready to give back. So apart from that, during my time at Luth as a resident, I managed to write a paper with one of my consultants. Unfortunately, it's not been published, so I put that on my resume also, that I had a paper with them. I wasn't the first author, I was like third author on the paper, but I put it in brackets. Oh, it has not been published, so I don't know if it means anything. Also, while preparing, I tried to do some CEs. So on the ADA website, there's some free CE courses there. So I did many on carries and whatever you have, just to get some CE points.
Website, right? You said the ADA website.
Yeah, the ADA website. Yeah, so if you go through it, you will see in the continued education portion, you will come across because some of them you pay for most of them, but there are a couple of them that are free, so you could always do that. And thank God for COVID, and everyone was learning from home. So on Coursera, I took a course with Hong Kong University on implantology, just to help my my application, right? So implantology. What else? Yeah, in Nigeria, I did lots of volunteer work with different NGOs. So I put that there, right? Also in Canada, I helped a couple of people. So I put it there, helping them, help some seniors that can't, really go around, walk their dogs and that kind of stuff. People are looking, for those kind of things. What else did I put? Yeah. Then I put something at one of that volunteer, but helping people, right? I think the food bank, right? My local food bank. I'm helping at the food bank, and and church. I'm kind of active in church, so I kind of put church. So that brings me to my references, right? For my I'm just going through like how I wrote my how my resume is arranged, right? So the references are usually the last time. So when you're applying, they will ask for a letter from the dean. They will ask for probably maybe 2 members of faculty to write for you. So I didn't put my dean, since dean will write for everybody. So my references, I put some of my very close lecturers. I put like, not even in my department, because I didn't leave my department very well, when I was coming to Canada. So I couldn't go with my consultant. So I put like different departments, right? OMFS, it was oral path, and probably I think Resto that wrote for me. Then also, my mentor who has a practice in Canada, I did my observership there.
Okay.
Yeah, so he also wrote me, and it's very, very important to have North American experience. You need to get North American experience, otherwise I don't think your application would be, competitive, right? I had a friend who also tried, but he had no North American experience and he didn't get called. So it's very important to have that.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because I think people don't really understand that. Because you can have all the masters and all the research and everything, but you also have to. It's not like I wouldn't say it's something that disqualifies you, but I'll say that it makes it more competitive. And I would agree that it makes you more competitive if you have North American experience. Because the thing is, when you're coming into school from a different background, when you already have that North American experience, you've already seen how dentistry is being practiced and how it's being done and how patients are being spoken to. So you're already like 20% ready for the program. That's the way I see it. I don't know if you have a different opinion.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. And then also, like, what was your TOEFL score like, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, yeah. My TOEFL score, reading 30, listening 28 or so, writing 25, and speaking 22. Can you imagine? I didn't know how the speaking was. I thought it was like IELTS. So in fact, the buzzer goes, like the voicemail, right? The buzzer goes off, and then you speak, right? Sometimes for the buzzer. In fact, one time I cursed, right? I said the F word. It was that terrible. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I had 106. For the US schools to be competitive, you need to score of at least 100. So
yes, that is true. And then also, like, what about yours? So, did you write the part one, part two, or you did the INBD? Because I think that
oh, oh yes, I have an interesting story. This is my story. It's not it's one day I'm going to write a book about it. So I wrote the part one and part two. So part one, there was nowhere in my city to write it because it was prometric. All the centers were booked. So I had to book for the exam in Calgary. It's about 3 hours from where I lived.
okay,
So I I booked the hotel. As soon as I got to the hotel, pandemic happened. The US declared a lockdown. Everywhere. They canceled the exam right there. As soon as I checked into the hotel, right, they just canceled. They canceled it. So that was part one. I had to wait for a couple of more months, right? I think that was in March. March 16th. I guess I can't forget March 16th. That is the lockdown the whole world.
lot of exams.
Yeah. So I had to as soon as things started reopening again with the COVID measures, I looked for the earliest date, which was in I think August.
Yeah.
So I wrote part one in August, and I think I wrote part two 2 months later or so.
Yeah.
2 months later, because it's about timing. There's not everybody was trying to book exams because everyone had been cancelled, right? So there was no space. So as soon as I could get the space for part one and part two, I just paid and wrote the exams, and I was lucky or fortunate that I only had to write it once.
And it's so funny that you said that because I just realized that I have of all the speakers I have we've had sessions with, I don't think I've asked anyone this question, but how were you able to, because you just said now that you did your part one and then 2 months after part two, how were you able to prepare for those exams? And you were working as well, I'm guessing. So how were you able to prepare for the board exams as well?
Oh yeah, working crazy hours because if no one has told you, this pathway is very expensive. It's very expensive. At least you should look to just keeping 15 to 20 grand aside for the process, right? Canadian dollars, So it's very expensive. Yeah, I had a newborn at that time, but when you think about Sakpa, or is it poverty? No, that's a very good motivator. That's a very good motivator when you think about what your life is and what your life was in Nigeria, the respect you had, and what you could be, because in North America, dentists are really respected and they make lots of money. So when you say, "Oh, I was once doing that and I could be that," I think that was enough motivation for me, and I saw a dentist, even before I met my mentor, right, who I've been practicing for many years, and boy, you should see his house. Whoo! Man, when I used to go to, I used to go to the house, I'm like, wow. So I could live, I could live, in this kind of neighborhood and in this kind of house. So yes, it was difficult. I got some materials um, off Facebook to read. I told you earlier on that there was the Canadian prep school I paid for. It's really tailored, towards the Canadian process, because in Canada they do the S curve and it's all about little marks, and it's all percentiles, right? It's little marks. The difference between you scoring 80% and someone on 92% might be 4 questions. Doesn't mean it just got 4 questions, right? So it's a different kind of exams compared to the Canadian one.
Okay.
So I got lots of materials from Facebook, and friends shared materials with me, and yeah, I was lucky. But I know some of them are like, "Oh, but you were doing residency in oral and maxillofacial surgery, so you must be a little bit smart." It doesn't matter. There are people that have been consulted for years and didn't pass the exam. It's about knowing what to read, just trying to. I know part one and part two, they are the past questions from ADA, so you could get that and inside they say their questions, and you just cram everything you can see, cram all the materials, and it should be okay.
All right, so that just even gave me an idea. I think I'm also going to do like a post, an article on that, just to help people like have what they can study and then how they can, you know, prepare for the exam, because that's also a very big deal. Because I just realized I've never asked anyone that. So you said you passed everything in one attempt. Can you just give me an idea of the schools you applied to? You know, how many application cycles you had, and you know, why you applied to those schools?
Oh yeah, that's you know, I have a funny story. I have a story for everything. It makes life more interesting. So, I live in Canada, right? And at the time, I was living in Alberta, Canada, which is on the western side of Canada, and my family was going to relocate to Ontario. So, in picking a school for the cycle I got in, I was like, I just want schools on the East Coast, somewhere close to Ontario so that I can easily commute in school if that's even possible, right? Yeah, I can easily commute, from school to maybe a weekend, quickly come back and rush down. So for me, right, it's important that this journey is not it's not all rosy. In fact, still now it's not still rosy, right? It's not rosy. There are lots of bumps and lots of ups and downs, but remember, winners never quit and quitters never win. You just have to keep on. So I applied. I got in on my second application cycle. The first one I told you, I wrote the exam in August, and 2 months later. So most of the schools, had closed the applications for the previous year. So for the first cycle, I applied to Boston.
Okay.
Then I applied to Washington, and I applied to Colorado, but my references did not send in my letters to Colorado on time, so I couldn't even
Make it.
consider, for possible an interview. So basically, it was Boston and
Washington.
yeah. Then the second application, and this time I chose my references, wisely. So, I wisely. So I got people that I could call, boss, Egbon, please, can you be send it? So don't just type it and I'll sign it, that kind of stuff. So I basically wrote some of my reference letters. I shouldn't be saying it here, but
Osborne.
yeah, I shouldn't be saying it here, but we know Nigeria. Our lecturers are very, very busy people. Obviously, I didn't write and sign it. I sent it to him. He went through it and he started. Everything was true. Everything I wrote was true. Highlighting what I think the school wants to. The second time around, I applied to Boston. I applied to lots of schools. Boston. I applied to Minnesota. I applied to Pittsburgh. I applied to Rutgers in New Jersey. I applied to Howard in Maryland.
Okay.
I applied to what was that very funny school again? One school in Tennessee.
Okay.
And I applied to there's one school, there's a black one HBCU school I applied to. I've forgotten the name. I think they are even still, they've not closed the application. No, they must have closed the application. Yeah, one of that school, I've forgotten the name of the school. Right. So
close to Ontario. So that was kind of like what.
Yeah, on the East Coast. Then I applied to some schools. Like I didn't want to go to Harvard, but you will understand with this process that when schools start calling for interviews or when time is going, those schools that you told yourself that I wouldn't appear, I would never apply to, like Harvard. I was never, I was Harvard is not, but that's that stupid pride. God will humble you in this process. That's just the thing. God will humble you. That's Harvard. I was so eager to pay their money. Because apart from the ADA, right? Once you pay to the school, they have supplemental fees you pay. They range from like $75 for Boston to like I think I was like $400 or so.
Yeah.
So the range. So I applied to those schools. Then I got called. I didn't get called by Boston on the first attempt. I got called by Washington on the first attempt. I got called by Minnesota on this attempt. I got called by Rutgers in New Jersey. I got called by Boston, and I got called by Pittsburgh. Yeah. So like the last year I had like 5 interviews. I had interviews with 5 schools. Yeah.
Perfect. So before we go, into the bench test and interview process for each of those schools, because I'm going to ask you, I hope you don't mind.
Oh yeah.
So now looking back at your application, what do you think helped you stand out, or what do you think made you unique, and why?
Well, something should know about me. I'm not unique. I'm just like everyone else. And I'm just there's we all have that thing in our lives that make us unique. It might be an experience, right? It's not necessarily what you studied in school or the degrees you have, or it just who you are, basically. So the thing that you should really concentrate on should be your statement of purpose.
Okay.
No, please don't bore those people. They have thousands of applications to read. I am this from this in Akure, this in Ekiti. I went to primary school, secondary school, university. In university, I was second best in my class. I had 2 distinctions in year 1, 5 decisions in year 2. I was ULAT president. I was, what else do we say? Then NYC. I was the only dentist in the whole state. I no, but with all due respect, nobody needs, like, come on, nobody needs that. It's if I did one, I just squeeze the application, I just toss it into the trash can. So nobody really wants to hear that, right? So it has to be your experience, what so for me, okay, so I'll just try to tell you like what I wrote. I've always been fascinated with smiles, from a very young age.
Okay.
A smile shows, the true feeling of a person. It radiates what's in the soul to the outside.
Oh, wow.
Being a dentist, has given me, the opportunity to help people express, their innermost, thoughts of peace and pleasure. That's why I'm a dentist, right? Something along those lines. So like, someone that starts with that, and someone that starts with in Akure, I'm the only graduate in my family. That's that's basically, it won't even stand out. You need to stand out. You need to stand out. That's what I'll keep on telling people. Like let me see, Minnesota. For Minnesota, right, you would write a personal SOP to them. For Minnesota, I was like, I quoted a poem, a very Americanish poem about, I drove and I reached the a junction and I turned left. It's a very, very famous poem. I've even forgotten what it was. So it's like, you start with a poem, it's like catches the person's attention. That's basically what you need. In your SOP, the first paragraph should be, you selling yourself. If you're on the lift with Joe Biden, how will you introduce yourself? How will you sell yourself? You should all know that as dentists, you're a salesman. You should know how to sell yourself. So that was, I think, something that made me stand out. I didn't dwell. I kind of put my experiences in there, right? Somewhere in there. Oh yeah, like my facial surgery. I did 3 years as a reg, and some other information. Then also how you end something. How you end something is very important. How you end your SOP. Most times you're looking at the beginning and the end. You have to sell yourself. Tell them you are willing, you are ready, and you are able to learn. Tell them everything in life has brought you to this particular junction. This is the next, logical step for both you and them. You're selling yourself. Them, they have to know, what do you bring? Look, if we take you, like, what do we get? You get, a mature person who never quits, who has overcome many life's obstacles. So if someone says that, I think at least they would pass your application to like the second stage.
Yeah, because like you started off with something very catchy. And I'm so happy that you said that because that resonates with what I also believe. Like you have to make sure that your statement of purpose is the statement of purpose is very, very catchy because opportunity for. So SOP means statement of purpose. So you're basically telling them who you are, what drives you, a little bit about your life experiences as well, what led you to decide to maybe go into dentistry, what motivates you. Just like let someone read your statement of purpose and know who you are, basically briefly, because they're also mentally thinking about where you're going to fall in place in terms of like the class they're trying to build, basically. All right. And then so the next thing I was gonna ask is, so I know that some schools do bench tests and interview, and then some schools just do the interview. So if you could just go through all the schools you interviewed at, like you can just tell us for those that have the bench test, what were the procedures? And then let's start with the bench test first, maybe not the interview. So let's just say, okay, schools that you did the bench test in, what were the procedures? And then how did you prepare for it?
Oh yeah, so I have a story again. I have lots. I'm a storyteller, but life is someone's story, right? Someone like me, I was like, well, I don't have so much to spend on a prep school, so I was gonna choose my battles wisely. So, I applied to Rutgers and I applied to Boston because they don't do bench tests, right? It's just the interview and you're good to go. You're good
Mm-hmm.
to go. For Washington, you do a class 2, you do a PFM, you do full ceramic, you do a wax up on an anterior, you do endo access on a lower posterior with rubber dam. Yeah, with rubber dam, and you do some restoration. So Washington, thank you for not even calling me. I knew I messed up, first of all during the interview. In the face-to-face interview, so I knew they're not going to call me, because but that was a learning curve.
Yeah.
I kind of readjusted later. So Washington and Minnesota. Minnesota was I think a class 2 on an upper premolar and I think a PFM on a lower molar. That's Minnesota. But thank God I also goofed on the final stage of the person of the what do you call it, the interviews, right? With the director of admissions. So it wasn't so great. So um Pittsburgh also just two crown preps. I think no, same thing has been a PFM on a lower molar and class 2
Okay.
on an upper premolar. So yeah, then I said Rutgers is just the face-to-face interviews, Boston face-to-face interviews. Yeah, so I'm the story, right? So I got Boston, Pittsburgh, and Boston, Pittsburgh, Boston, Pittsburgh, and Rutgers.
And what?
Yeah, in the space of 2 weeks, So I was doing them together, right? And as soon as Boston, the funny thing about Boston was that there are different stages. So I did my interview like on a Monday evening at 5 p.m. and by 11 a.m. on Tuesday morning, they had offered me the admissions, right? So so it was really good and really fast. So they offered, so I sent regret letters to Pittsburgh and Rutgers because I was really preparing for the bench test at Pittsburgh. I really like Pittsburgh, so I sent them regret that I won't be able to make it. I already paid for hotel and my flight, so it's not as if I wasn't going, right. I had to forfeit, some money, and also the money for the bench test. You've got to pay money for bench test, so I paid lots of money, but it's like I've gone into school already, so I didn't need to do that again. So how did I prepare? I was on a shoestring budget. As I told you earlier on, it's lots and lots and lots and lots of money. At least 15 to 20,000 US. I mean Canadian.
Okay.
You know. Because of that, I couldn't afford to get myself a regular compressor, a dental compressor, like most people, like Dr. Dami and the rest of them. Yeah, I couldn't afford that. Also, I couldn't waste all my money, buy materials from Canada. So I had to use Wish. I don't know how many of you know Wish. Yeah, and it takes like forever to get things shipped, right? So so I got Columbia and Kilgore teeth because the schools have different teeth they use. I think Minnesota and Pittsburgh, they both use Columbia. So yeah, they both use Columbia. So I had to order Columbia and Kilgore from Wish. Sometimes it took 2 months. I also ordered the rubber dam, I ordered everything, right? So for my compressor, I had to manually couple it myself, my contraption, right? So I bought a compressor, like a regular compressor from Amazon.
Okay.
Again, because I don't have so much money, I was working on a shoestring budget, right? On Amazon, you could always go and look for like other sellers or like other prices, right?
Okay.
And so I eventually got to like Amazon's open box, section.
Okay.
So I got my compressor for a very cheap price. I think I got it for like less, like $100. It
Okay.
was new, right? So I had my compressor now to generate air, so I needed the dental unit, right? So next thing I went to Amazon again, look for a dental, a turbine unit.
Okay.
So I looked for one that had been, you know, damaged a bit, just had a scratch on the body. So it was half the price.
Yeah.
I think I paid about 60 something dollars for that. And yeah, so there is a video, on, is it ADA simplified or ADA copied on YouTube, right? On how to like
Like,
connect together, right? Yeah, I watched YouTube also, try to fit it. Then I didn't realize that my dental turbine unit, that the part that goes into your handpiece was different.
oh, the whole.
Yeah, the
Okay.
stuff, you screen. So I had to look for a dental technician here in town, I had to take my turbine unit to him. So he like cut it off and like joined irregular stuff to it. So at the end of the day, I got my dental unit working for less than $300 as opposed to like $1,500,
Yeah.
1700 dollars. So
And
it
it
was,
worked. It
yeah,
served.
it worked, right? It worked perfectly. Exactly. So that's my little story.
And so were you like preparing by yourself and then like watching videos online? Was there someone like checking your work, or you just had faith in your own abilities and you were just going like?
Yeah, again, like I have like two friends. One is in Washington now. The other just finished from Buffalo.
Okay.
The guy that finished from Buffalo, the guy that finished from Buffalo, he went to prep school here, and the prep school, for those of you in Canada, DSTC, for 2 months is 4,000 Canadian. So yeah, just think about that. I was like, well, I have a wife and a little boy to feed. I don't think I can afford 4,000 Canadian, right? So I didn't do the what they call it, the DSTC training, even for 2 months. And again, if you are doing it, you can't work because you are in there, you're just drilling teeth, you're dreaming, you're basically sleeping in there.
Yeah.
The second person in Washington, she watched YouTube, and I guess she had a dentist at home that could check it for her. So and she got into Washington. Washington is perhaps the most difficult school to get in because their bench test is crazy.
Yeah.
She went to Washington, and I was like, okay, if she can do it, I can as well do it. So I watched lots of videos on YouTube, RGS dental, class 2 scored by different people, and I try to teach myself. And because I had to compare it to something, right? You can be teaching yourself, but you could be teaching yourself rubbish, right? It's very possible. So I I got pre-cut teeth
Okay.
from Camden, so I got like class 1, class 2, PFM, full ceramic inlays, onlays, wide, moderate, minimal preps. I got lots of teeth so that I could use it to judge my work, right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Perfect. And just for those who are not clear, so pre-cut teeth are teeth that when you go to like a company to buy teeth from, they've already like worked on them, so they've already prepped the class ones, the class twos, the onlays, inlays, and then you buy it that way already prepared. And then someone also asked what the dental unit is for. I'm happy someone already answered that. So the dental unit is so that you can practice procedures by yourself at home. So you use the dental unit, you get the dental unit, you connect your handpiece to it, and then you work on your already purchased plastic teeth to like practice at home. Like if you want the choice of practicing by yourself at home, basically. All right. So I'm happy that you went into detail. Let's talk about the interview process. Like, what was the interview process like? What would be your advice on how best to prepare for an interview?
Well, yes, I told you earlier on, I goofed at Washington and Minnesota. I really goofed. Well, Washington, I remember Washington, they were like, oh, how will you, cope with stress? Like, oh, yeah, I'm okay. I work under pressure. Then I've got a good family support structure. And before I knew, I started talking about my wife. So I knew I'd goofed, you know. I knew I'd goofed, yeah, at Washington. Then at Minnesota, the first stage is the Kira. So for those of you who have applied to Minnesota, Minnesota, they have batches they call people. So like people who apply during a certain application time, they give you guys invite to the interview. So the first one is the Kira. It's just like a
Like,
video, like just asking you questions, like basically like HR questions. Tell me an instance you worked under pressure. Tell me this. Tell me that. So after the Kira interview, you proceed to have an interview with the admissions board, and it was this time I saw I was competing against because it was all open. I think I was a bit, not overwhelmed, but it was a bit scary. I can't forget some people. There was this lady at Harvard. She was in dental material. She had written like 15 papers. There was this guy from University of Hong Kong, and oh my God, it was just, if I was feeling the guy, during the interview, there were people at Stanford. Yeah, people from Stanford, Germany, telling you what they are doing. People who are consultants, maxillofacial surgeons from Russia. I didn't finish. I didn't even do part one. Talk less of, So I guess during my batch, I couldn't properly sell myself. It was a bit. It just dawned on me that, boy, you're in the big leagues, So yeah, basically, I didn't do so well. I
yeah,
stammered a bit. Yeah, but the school also know what they want, right? Because to call you for the bench test, they put the Kira, and the Kira I didn't do so well also with the Kira interview, and basically I had two people that they invited for Minnesota. One got into Minnesota, but eventually declined, and the other lady got Washington, so she didn't go to Minnesota. Yeah.
all right. So
Oh, that's Minnesota. Sorry. Yeah, Boston. Let me talk about my school. Sorry, Boston.
Yeah. Boston.
Yeah. So for Boston, there are like 3 stages. The first stage is you will talk to they call them student ambassadors, just students like you who will talk to all of you. You wear casual and you just talk. So they speak to everyone there. They ask questions. So that kind of thing. They ask you what you want to learn about the school. So in this time, you will want to really differentiate yourself, ask those questions that because Boston had gone through all their school magazines, alumni magazines. I had gone on Google Earth around the school, so I had questions that only someone, in fact they were very impressed, and I was asking them some questions like, how do you know about this? I was like, yeah, I read about it, right? So then also you don't go there and start frowning or start squeezing your face, your identity. So you are paid to make people smile. So you as well might smile during the interview. So you go there, you smile, you be excited, you be enthusiastic, you want to answer questions and ask questions. You just want to differentiate yourself. Yeah. Then the second one was with the admissions committee, the director and the other people, asking them. I went to to their website, got everybody's first name.
Oh.
call them by first name. At the end of the day, when I finish, I thank them individually, by their first names. That kind of thing, it goes a long way. Knowing someone's first name, it goes, know that thank you all. Oh, thank you, Tom. Thank you this. Thank you that. Thank you. And like, wow, they were really surprised. So
very impressive. Like, so basically,
yeah,
you're like, if you're going for the interview, do your research about the school. Like, just don't go there and be like just floating in the air. Do your research about the school. Like, that's one thing that I'm hearing from everybody that went for interviews. Like, do your research about the school. Prepare. Also, like, read your resume as well, because if you agree with me, like, they ask you questions sometimes also from your resume or from your statement of purpose. So just don't get mix stuff up that you can't defend. Okay, so we just have a few more minutes left, so I'm hoping that we can do questions, and then that way we can just keep this under one session.
okay.
Okay, so the first question is I think you already talked about it. Like, this person is asking about how best to prepare for the interview. Like, that was kind of basically what we just talked about now. How to
I think also there's this, is it on YouTube, ADA Simplified? They are really good. Yeah, ADA Simplified, I think. Is it Capital Simplified? Simplified.
okay. Sorry, what was the other name you mentioned?
No,
Capot
not Capital. I think it's ADA Simplified. I'm not sure, but one of them is that.
Simplified, because I've heard.
Yeah, there are a couple of, I think Indian folks, yeah.
Yeah, they have like a lot. Yeah, you're right, because I actually use some of them. So they have like YouTube recordings from people who have had other interviews in other schools, and then how best to like prepare. So I think that answers the question, like how best to prepare for the interview, how to stand out. I always stand before you go for the interview. In a way, you should be able to preempt what they're going to ask you if it's possible. So this other person is asking how do I calm my nerves during the interview?
Oh, that's very, very, very easy. Like for me, it was, I speak very fast, and sometimes it's difficult for some of those folks in the obodo to understand what we are saying. We speak very fast and barely audible. So on my laptop, right, for the interviews, I learned from the first two interviews, they were really, really, the best teachers I had. So on my laptop, I had like sticky notes.
Okay.
I always put, smile on top of the camera. I'll put smile, and I drew like a smiley face. Always smile. Then I put talk slowly, talk slowly, relax, you've got this, just sticky tape. So like I'm looking into the camera, right? You want to make sure you're looking into the camera during the interviews, and you're not looking like elsewhere or down, like looking straight into their eyes, right? So I was looking at the smiley face. So when I see that your smile, right, it's a smiley face, I'm like, oh, come on, yeah, you're so funny, this guy, So if it's going to be online virtually, you can put that on your computer, relax, you've got this, or put something that makes you smile. If it's your baby's picture, anything that just relaxes you, just put it there.
Yeah, and I know one thing that helped me was I'm someone that when I like when I gesticulate a lot, it helps me to calm down. But the thing is, you also have to find a balance, because you can't just be doing this all the time. You understand? So one thing I did was I would just like put my hands together in a way. It helps to reaffirm in my brain that you know what, we're in control. Calm down. And it's funny that you said that you talk fast, because that was the same thing that Dr. Fasoyiro said yesterday, and that was also a challenge that I had as well, learning to speak slowly. And then that also was a problem for me at my first interview. And just like you said, my first interview taught me a lesson that you know what, I needed to get this under control. Because if you're not being audible, if they can't hear what you're saying, if they don't understand, if they can't hear what you're saying, they won't understand what you're saying. And so obviously you're not communicating, and you're not going to make an impression. So I'm just going to conclude by saying that before you go for your interview or any bench test, have a game plan. In your mind, you should already know. It's not like you just get there and be floating and then the wind just blows you in whatever direction. Have a game plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is a part of my resume or my statement of purpose that I'm going to sell to these people. You're going there like as if you're selling a car. So you just like when you meet a salesperson, they highlight to you the best parts of the car that can catch your attention and make you bring out money from your pocket, right? So that's the game plan. and be confident. Be confident. I don't know if you have any final words for us before we just, close today's session.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of So one thing I did, because I speak very fast, like now I'm on like minus, 3. I'm trying to speak as slowly as I can.
Yeah.
So I recorded myself many
Okay.
times. I recorded myself an audio of like me doing like virtual interviews right in my room. I'm like, oh no, you sound too low. You don't sound happy enough. You're too fast. So I did that like many times. Even video, like I put on my laptop, start recording, and I'm talking, recording myself. I like, oh yeah, you gesticulate too much. You're talking too fast. Your head is tilted. You're not smiling. So I did that like a lot, right? Until I kind of perfected the tone I wanted to use, the pace I wanted to speak at. So it's lots of hard work at first. And secondly, you might say, oh, it's difficult. I had receipts in school. Well, I had receipts in my final year. I had receipts in DS1, my first, but it was a shocker, right? So you're like, oh, I didn't do so well. Forget that is, pardon my French, but it's BS. If they like you, they like you. If you sell yourself well, it shouldn't matter much. I had a receipt. Another thing, I didn't work as a DSA or a hygienist or anything. I don't do anything dental. Yet I still got called to about 5-6 schools. It doesn't matter. You don't need to work in a dental place for you. You need to get North American experience, but you don't need to work. It's not compulsory. You work. You just have to. Like at Pittsburgh, the guy asked me at the last interview process that why you're like the only one not doing anything dental related, and he said, why is that? And I told him, I'm a family man. This process is expensive. I've got to look for a job that can pay my bills and that can pay for this journey I'm about to embark on. And life is always tough for an immigrant.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wow, I totally understand, And that's where he ended the interview. It's like, you should be able to defend everything, like on your resume. What do you do now? Going like, oh, I'm a DSA. No. I just told him the truth. And I think the final thing is that you hear some schools, oh, this school, they like taking this people of this nationality, or they don't take Nigerians, or they don't do this. Don't rule yourself out. Don't. Never rule yourself out. In fact, for Pittsburgh, I got a rejection email from Buffalo on the deadline for Pittsburgh. I wasn't going to apply to Pittsburgh, and I applied on the deadline day at 8 p.m.
Oh wow.
I called. I was the one that sent Pittsburgh, an email that, oh, sorry, I got taken at Boston. I won't. And he said, do you still want to come? You can still come. Maybe you'll change your mind. I said, no, I decided to take Boston. It was that much, they were kind of impressed by the interview, I guess. They wanted me to really come to their school, but that then finally, I wanted to say something. Finally, yeah, like I told you, I volunteered somewhere. Even to get a volunteer place, I was rejected by even people, Nigerians. So don't think you're in North America, you walk into a practice and then they'll tell you, come and volunteer. It's not like that. It was very difficult for me. In fact, to where I volunteered at, I used to drive 2 hours in one direction.
Oh wow.
Like driving from Lagos all the way to Ondo, without traffic or anything. One day I was caught in a snowstorm. I almost died. So it's not a journey that is all easy. There are many challenges: passing the exams, getting called for an interview, passing the interview, getting called into school, affording school. That's another thing you must think about, on how much the school costs. It is very important. Even if Minnesota had taken me, I wouldn't have gone to Minnesota. Minnesota's tuition is $300,000. There's no way you can get that money. So you have to consider the schools you are going to. You don't want to get to a school and you can't pay the school fees. So that's all. Always remember, winners never quit and quitters never win. All the best, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tony. Like, you just ended on the best note ever. So you guys, just I hope we've encouraged you enough to know that you know what, something you can do. You just have to prepare to achieve the result that you want. All right. And on that note, I'm just gonna end this and say, amazing. Thank you to Dr. Tony Adebule. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the details. Thank you for everyone who stayed from the beginning of the session up until the end. I hope we've answered everyone's questions. If you have any follow-up questions, you can remember send me the DM, an email, and then I'll try to get across to you as soon as possible. Okay? All right. Everyone have a great day, okay?
Bye-bye.